Welcome to Yarn Junction Company. I'm Kate.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Beth, and I'm going to teach you how to knit. Let's begin. When we teach people to knit at Yarn Junction Company, we like to use a needle that will give them instant satisfaction, and we have chosen Knitter's Pride number 11. We also like to choose a yarn that is a chunky yarn, so I have chosen Ella Rae's Seasons. Now the nice part about this is it's a single strand, and this one has a chain effect. I don't know if you can see the chain, but it has a chained effect, so it won't be easy to split. Now when you start casting on, that means putting the stitches on the needle so you can knit. You need to do a number of ways. There are a number of ways to cast on. I like to do the long tail cast on, which means I'm going to have a tail on one end and the working yarn on the other. In order to determine where my slip knot is, because that will be my first stitch, I like to use a rule of about 2 inches per stitch from the end. So in my model, I'm going to cast on 8 stitches, so I'm going to need about 16 inches. So from the end, I'm going to take about 16 inches and make a slip knot. To make a slip knot, you go around your 2 fingers, and then that made a circle, and I'm going to bring the yarn then up through the circle and give a little tug. It's called a slip knot because it'll slip right out and then it's gone. Another way to do a slip knot is you can put it on the table and then make a circle. You have an underneath yarn and an over yarn. If you put your circle over the underneath yarn and pull it up through that, then you have a slip knot. So let's put our 8 stitches on the needle. And we only use 1 needle in casting on. My slip knot will become my first stitch of my 8. I'm going to give it a little tug. I want to be able to get a second needle in that hole, so I can't make it too tight. And I'm not going to worry about it being a little bit loose right now because I want ease of knitting. So to do a long tail cast on, I have put my finger on the yarn. My left hand will grab hold of both yarns, and then finger and thumb each get a yarn. Make a slingshot so that you have a thumb circle, and I'm going to take my needle, open up the thumb circle, go over the finger yarn, bring it right back through the thumb circle, and then give a tug. And notice I'm tugging up one side of my stitch. I'm going to grab hold, finger and thumb each get a yarn. I'm going to make a slingshot, open up the thumb circle, grab the finger yarn, and bring it right back through. Now this time I'm going to show you a shortcut. See how I just put my thumb in there and tightened it up. So open up the thumb circle, over the finger yarn, right back through. Drop your thumb out, put your thumb back in. So now I have 4 stitches, my slip knot, and 3 more. I'm going to do this 4 more times. There's 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now if this was truly my scarf, I've spread these out a little bit, then that's how wide my scarf will be. If I want it to be wider, I'm going to add more stitches. If I want it narrower, I'm going to take some away. So I've got cast on, and now we're going to knit. To knit, I put my yarn in my left hand, and I'm not holding it way back here because then I have no leverage. I'm putting it right up here so I'm comfortable with my yarn, and hopefully my fingers will be out of the way so I can knit. Notice we have a tail, which is now not 16 inches anymore, and we have our working yarn. So I'm going to grab my other needle, and I'm going to insert my right needle up into the first stitch of my left needle. And I'm going to take my working yarn, I'm going to wrap it around the back. Notice that the right needle is underneath the left needle. I'm going to hold on to my yarn and my needle, and I'm going to pull back, go underneath that, and off. So I'm going to go up my needle, and we have the little saying, so we go up the needle, I take it around the back, I hold on to needle and working yarn, I go underneath, I make a cross. Do you notice how my needles will make a cross? And I'm not in the skinny part of the needle, I'm in the fat part of the needle. So I make a cross and off. So I go up the needle. Sometimes it helps to transfer your left thumb over onto that needle to hold onto it. Around the back, down the needle, cross and off. And we like people to say that with us. So up the needle with every stitch you get, because if you miss a piece, it doesn't seem to work. Round the back, down the needle, cross and off. Up the needle, say it with me, round the back, down the needle, cross and off. It's very important we don't miss a step. So if you go down the needle, it's going to be backwards. It's really hard to wrap around. So it's up the needle, around the back, down the needle, cross and off. If I don't hold on to my working yarn and I go around the back and then I drop it, sometimes it can just fall right off. And so it's really important that you do all of the steps. Up the needle, round the back, down the needle, cross and off. One more, up the needle, round the back, down the needle, cross and off. Now I'm going to put that left hand needle down because I want to talk to you about what it should look like. This was the way we were holding the yarn. Now we turn our needle around, and if we straighten everything down here, you should be able to see a bump for every stitch. Do you see that right there? So that it's like a bump that's hugging the stitch. Now every one of them has one, and this one happens to be the bump for that first stitch. Because he's kind of big and loopy, we call him Mr. Loopy. And we always look for Mr. Loopy because then you know your yarn is in the correct spot to start your next row. If your yarn is in the back, then we look at all these bumps. There's a bump, there's a bump. Oh, that might be called a bump, but not really. But no bump there. So now I have 9 stitches if I did it this way. So we know that's not right. Yarn's in the wrong spot. Pull everything down and start your next row. When you start your next row, you're going to go above Mr. Loopy. You're going to go up the needle, round the back, down the needle, cross and off. And this is the only time you can ever tug in your little saying. So now you started your second stitch, you tug up Mr. Loopy, round the back, cross and off. And if you just continue this, you will then do row after row after row, and you will have a knitted project. So I'm just going to finish this row and then set it down and show you one that we've kind of already done a little bit. So I'm going to show you, there's my 8 stitches. Okay, so I'm going to set that down. Now in this part we put 20 stitches on, and if you can notice, we have row after row after row, and each row will give a ridge. Turn it over, you can see the ridge on this side. So this is a little bit wider scarf. We like the Ella Rae Seasons because it stripes, and it just becomes a very pretty first project, letting the yarn do the color changes and you don't have to. Now that I've got my scarf the length I want it to be, I'm ready to cast off, which means take the stitches off the needle. In order to do that, we're just going to take them off one at a time, but you have to start by knitting your first 2 stitches. So just like we did before, I'm going to go up the needle, round the back, down the needle, cross and off. Sometimes you need to just scoot them up the needle, round the back, down the needle, cross and off. And now I'm going to jump the first stitch over the second stitch. You can either do it with your fingers, which sometimes gets a little awkward for me, but some people find that easier. Or you can knit them off. So you put your left needle in the front of the first stitch, stretch it out and jump it off. Oops, didn't do it like that. Then you need to knit one more because you're going to do this one at a time. Put your left needle in the first stitch and jump it off over the second stitch. Up the needle, round the back, finish knitting that stitch, up and off. And you always have to have 2 stitches on, and it's 2 complete stitches, not halfway. And notice, if you look, we've got then all of our stitches coming off and forming a nice even line. Now you do that all the way to the end, and I'll show you how to do the last one. So I'm going to do it kind of fast so that you aren't saying, okay, get to the last one. But see, it's very rhythmic. Try to keep your yarn loose so that you aren't making a really tight cast off. And again, it's just one at a time, having 2 stitches on the needle, one at a time, take them off. And I have a lot of people that say, okay, I'm done, I've got 1 stitch on each needle. Well, that doesn't work. You need 1 stitch only. So your left needle should be totally empty of stitches, and your right needle should only have 1 stitch left when you're totally done. So I just have a couple more. Okay, so what I meant by that is you're not done here because you have 1 stitch on each needle. You need to finish all of the left stitches and jump that one off. And then what you can do is you can just cut your yarn. Can't cut this one, but you can cut your yarn and just pull that through. And then snip it right there and you're done. And look, you've got a nice cast off edge. Hope you enjoy your scarf.
I'm excited you're going to learn how to
Where are we
Let's
looking?
begin.
Yeah,
Let's begin.
You're going to look right here in
Yeah.
the lens part.
Let's begin.
Yeah.
Let's begin.
Yeah,
There, that's
that'll help.
better.
And I'm going to teach